Hi everyone, welcome to a new Devlog. My name is Danny Marti and I'm developing Lobo, an action-adventure game inspired by The Last of Us and Diablo. In this episode we are gonna see how I have been struggling again with level design, the mistakes I made and how I try to fix them. So let's get started. I have been struggling with level design again. I thought my last level was good and had all the components I wanted, but after testing it several times, I realized it had some flaws I wanted to fix. So what were the mistakes I made designing the level? The whole level was created with a focus on the points of interest, which caused a geographically weird looking map. It didn't feel natural and didn't convey the atmosphere I wanted for my level. On top of that, it was created as an open level, so in order to limit and direct the movement of the player, I blocked lots of possible paths so the player didn't get lost. But that solution felt cheap. The last flaw was the aesthetic design. The forest didn't look too interesting and it looked flat. So how did I fix my issues? Before doing anything, we need to have a clear idea of how we will use the level. In my case, this first level serves as a tutorial where we will learn about quests, collecting items, and combat. On the other hand, this level is very important because it exposes the player's arc and establishes the whole game's narrative. Those are very important goals, and it took me several attempts to have something I was happy with. So don't be afraid to iterate until your design matches your vision. Once I had all my goals clear, I decided to research how other games fix similar issues. I took The Last of Us as a reference, since I'm making a game similar where the narrative is important and it's more linear. In The Last of Us, the points of interest are only visible from certain spots. They are integrated naturally on the map, and the design is not forced around them. On the other hand, they limit the movement of the player, visually showing obstacles such as trucks or cars blocking paths. And as example, in the forest, they use denser foliage to visually show that you cannot go through, which feels more natural since in real life, we wouldn't try to go through the bushes. That was all the theory, but how did I bring that to practice? The first thing was creating a realistic map, and for that I used World Creator. After a couple attempts, I decided to go for a small level. First of all because that prevented me from using World Partition. I don't have any experience with it and I didn't want to add more things to the learning list. And on top of that, it felt very finicky. So having a smaller map gave me more control and it feels less overwhelming. My goal is having a world that, even if it's small, is rich in content, with encounters, quests, and fun stuff to do, rather than a walking simulator. Like The Last of Us, I use geographical boundaries such as hills, rivers, etc. to limit spaces and paths so it feels more natural and credible. Taking the forest in The Last of Us 2 as a reference, I designed my forest in a similar way, where the foliage gets denser when we are farther from the path and using verticality to add more depth to the forest. Creating mini hills help to visually create those barriers where the player is not supposed to go. On the other hand, I updated my project from 5.1 to 5.3 so I could use all the potential of the PCG. I created a level as a library so I could have easy and fast access to all my models. Having models from the marketplace and Quixel can feel overwhelming because of the number of options, so having the models available at a level helped me with the consistency of the design and restrain me from using tons of different models. Then I could direct test my PCGs in a small landscape, which is faster to iterate and less resource expensive. Then, when I was happy, I could use my PCG at the real level. I'm using PCG in three ways. 1. To populate my forest with grass, bushes and trees. 2. To create a path and transition from the path to the forest. And 3. To create blocking walls that don't allow the player to go through. So after putting all the pieces together, that's how my forest looks like. The forest is now more complex, realistic and has depth, which makes it intriguing and more interesting to explore. I want to shout out Exit Simulation and Agile Arts for their PCG tutorials. So please visit their channels and follow them if you are interested in this topic. I will leave their links in the description. On the other hand, I'm currently polishing the combat, so I have a robust combat design to escalate to different enemy types. But that is content for another devlog. As always, thanks so much for watching and consider subscribing if you like this content, and see you in the next devlog.